guys, welcome back to another engine build video. In this one we're going to get the valve cover on, put a lot of the accessories on, hopefully get like most of the motor just all together and ready to go. Already I just barely threw on the thermostat and the water pump. This is a water pump out of my old motor, and the thermostat is also out of my old motor. Mishimoto thermostat, I can't remember the water pump that I got, but this is the actual water pump housing that came off of this motor, because it is already the aluminum one. But on my other one, it had some cracks around where it holds the seal in. So for now, just gonna run this one. It's not as clean as my other one, but it will do the job a lot better and seal up better. So I just threw a little bit of RTV around, put the thermostat in, put the housing on, bolted it down. So like the whole front of the motor is pretty much done. I just have to do the front main seal, and then we're gonna throw on like the oil filter housing, valve cover, and then we can put on like the alternator, power steering pump, everything else that we need. Okay, so I just prepped the valve cover. I put the new gaskets on, and we're gonna just throw it right on top. Here we go. All right, guys, I got the new spark plugs put in, did some NGKs, and then I got the old coil packs in, along with the ground straps, which go here and over here, and they're on the ones that are actually studded. Those are valve cover bolts, but they don't look like this guy, like the rest of these, like those. They actually look like that with a stud on the end, and then you have a separate small nut that goes there and on the other side. Need to put the water pump pulley on. I got this fancy new one from ECS. Gonna make it look a little bit better. As well as I need to plug this guy off, put the oil filter housing on, and then get the dipstick all put on. That way the motor is fully sealed. But as for now, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I do cover it with a trash bag when I'm not out here, so that nothing can get in there, or the oil pan hole, or any of these other holes. So one thing I forgot to do previously was put the front main seal on. I actually had to order one because somehow we missed it in the ordering process, but it's gonna pop in right there. So I found a big socket that's the same size. If you're curious, this is a 1 7/8 socket. Fits perfectly around there. So I'll just slip this guy in. So now we can go and throw this guy on. And it's keyed, so it only goes on one way. We'll just line up the keyed portion, slip that in, and this guy goes on with a peg. Just like that. So continuing from where I left off, I've got this motor still in the same position. Nothing's really changed, just did the front main seal, put all that stuff on like you saw. But I just pulled the transmission off of the motor that came out of the car. So you can see that. All ready to go. We're just gonna start swapping stuff over. The main things that I need to do are the alternator and the power steering pump, which I need to get that cleaned up, because if you look at it, it is disgusting down there. I'm also gonna be probably pulling off this intake and starting the manifold swap to the M50 manifold down there. We're gonna be basically moving everything from here over with the new manifold, as well as I'm gonna be deleting a lot of the garbage that's in here and a lot of this extra wiring, like the rear O2 sensors. We're not gonna be using those anymore, because with the tune I'm getting, we can just, take them off. Okay, a little update. Got the intake off, got a lot of this stuff just untangled, and power steering pump, the alternator. Okay, just cleaned up the power steering pump. This thing was disgusting. You can still see how there's a lot of crap on it. It was just black, like caked with stuff, like similar to this, but worse, because that's where my leak was coming from, was all power steering. Because you look, top half of the motor, decently clean, like obviously a little dirty, but down there, real bad. Hopefully with the new Chase-based steering kit, power steering line kit, it won't be leaking anymore, but we will see. All right, so the alternator and the power steering pump are on. I'm gonna have to get a new one of these because it is pretty cracked and messed up. So that'll be on the way. But yeah, alternator, power steering pump are good. Now we're starting with the first super nice ease of life kind of reliability mod. It's this little guy from Rally Road. So we're gonna throw this one in, and what it's doing is it's giving us an extra port right there, and that is for an oil temp sensor. We're gonna slap it right in this port right there. That is where this oil pressure sensor is. I'm actually adding a gauge, so I'm gonna just add another sensor in there and then have it route into the car so that I can actually see what the pressures are. All right, and then you'll see here, I just got my new sensor put in there. So actually I'm gonna be running the glow shift gauge. I know a lot of people don't like them, but I've heard that they've gotten better, and I'm not building some crazy race car. This is just to give me an idea if pressure is, you know, flying up or down, or if I just lose it altogether. But it comes with everything you need. So right here is the actual plug-in and everything for the sensor. And then you can run that wiring into, there's another set of wiring in there, and then a nice simple gauge. I like an analog gauge, at least in that's my preference. You guys can go with digital or whatever you want, but I like this kit just because it comes with everything, and they'll match because I've got another one. Okay, another really easy one. You'll see this guy right here. This normally runs straight into the heater core, I believe. On mine, we just have it looped because my heater core was clogged and it was causing my car to overheat. So my buddy just got like a 90-degree and did some fancy stuff for me. But yeah, so that just blocks it off here. And then I'm also blocking off this one here, if you remember. But that will eliminate that whole rail that runs here and up to the throttle body and out of here and all that. So tons there that's getting eliminated. We're getting rid of this guy. We're getting rid of this that comes on there, and then this. And it's gonna be way simpler to work on, especially if I ever need to do anything over here, like if I had to replace the Vanos line or, you know, the sensor here. Or all right, guys, check this out. I got the whole engine harness off. Crazy. So you can see exactly what we're getting rid of now. Any of these coolant lines, gone, 100%. I'm not gonna be running any of them. I already blocked off this port. I have the stuff I need to block off this, and I'm just waiting on an actual kit with a bunch of like little nipple block off things to put on these. But that's it. Like, I'm getting rid of all that. So it is still kind of crazy. This will still be next to the motor, but I will be still thinning some of it out. I believe there's a couple, well, I think the only things we're really not using is the rear O2 sensors, which are these guys. We're getting rid of, I think it's just those, so it'll just be the one wire, but I don't know, that still helps a little bit. It's not too complicated now that I've seen it and had to unplug everything. But wow, these look nearly identical now, other than, you know, the little mess of stuff there. But man, we're getting super close to getting this thing back in the car. All right, I kind of just got in the mode and just jumped way ahead. Anyway, the wiring harness is completely on. Pretty much everything's plugged in that I can so far. I showed you guys how I have this coolant port plugged, but I actually just got this one finished. So I just took the hose that actually was on the other block that was here and kind of went into the, you know, the coolant rail. Chopped it down, found a plug. You can use a bolt or whatever you want, but I just got this plug. Decided to just take it, threw it in there, and then threw the regular hose clamps that were on it, and that is good. I might shorten it up. In fact, I'm going to shorten it up, but I just want to show you how I did that. So there you go. Everything else is all ran. Alternator's even like wired in. I'm got to get the intake stuff done, but I want to take that over to Glenn and see if he can clean it for me. Honestly, I might be able to as well. Got the new water pump pulley on and all of the belt.
It's warmer in here than it is out there.
Is it? All right, so I've been hard at work getting this manifold to fit. I took it over to Glenn last night and he cleaned it up for me. We're gonna have to do some trim restore on the other side. I'll show you that here in a moment. But I've been following a YouTube video. I'll leave it in the description. I believe his name is Quinn. He goes by Menace. Anyway, followed his tutorial on how to do this M50manifold.com swap kit. So it comes with the hoses, the hose clamps. You just have to modify the stock bracket by cutting it there, and then reusing, those three pieces. I wasn't able to use this guy because there was one already in there, so that kind of worked out. And then these will come into play later, I assume. But as for now, got that all hooked up. Essentially, you have this one tube that runs all the way around, splits into two. One goes into the manifold, one goes into the idle control valve, and then this will go into the intake boot. Guys, I've been hard at work, forgot to record. There was just so much going on. Look at this. It is all together. The whole thing, top to bottom. I could put this in the car, hook up the fuel lines, all the electrical to the other parts of the car, and the fuel pressure regulator line, and it would run 100%. I have touched every nut and bolt on this entire motor. I've plugged in every connector, touched every line, replaced so many things, and it's done. One thing to mention is ignore the stock M52 headers. Those I will be running for maybe a week or two. Taking this, once it's in the car, down to my buddy Marcos. He is the one who sold me the M50 manifold as well as these long tube headers from an E46. They fit on there. I've already test fit them. However, you'll notice that right there is quite a bit longer than this guy right here. So what I have to do is get this down to him, bring those headers, and he's going to mock them up on here and make them fit the rest of my exhaust. And then we're also going to be going catless, so it'll be just a little bit louder. RK Tunes is also going to provide a good tune for it. Anyway, since we last left off, I finished up everything under here. So for the M50 manifold swap, I'm going to link a video down below. Like I said, couple of things to keep in mind. If you're deleting traction control, you got to get a 90-degree boot. I got this one from RK Tunes just because I wanted his little logo on there. It was worth spending a couple extra bucks for that. As well as it's very, very nice. Came with a plug and everything. But going inside, there's a lot going on here. You can see it's not as much of a rat's nest because, we're not running like the throttle body heater lines or any of the coolant lines for that matter. Tomorrow we're going to be putting on the new clutch that I got, as well as putting the ZF 5-speed transmission, stabbing that in, and hopefully all goes well, put it straight in the car. I bought a bunch of oil from Glenn, more of that BR30 break-in oil. We'll be loading this up with 7 quarts of that and letting her warm up a little bit, go for road tests, see how it does. Not going to be hitting any high RPM. I'm doing all the break-in procedures. I do not want this thing to break. It was far too expensive to be able to just do it again. But yeah, this is absolutely insane to me that I've touched every nut and bolt on this engine. I've put every single thing together. It took me about a month, but that's just working weekends and time after work. But I just want to say thanks to everyone that supported me, helped me along, taught me everything I know. This is gonna be awesome.